Michael, we're now going to be talking about Thesis 16, and you make the point here that there are important trade-offs for all living beings, and I wonder if you could talk a bit about these trade-offs.
Well, trade-offs actually aren't even specific to life. Trade-offs arise from basic features of physics and chemistry. And here I use the parallel with automotive design. The point being, it's very hard to make a minivan that performs like a sports car. I mean, I'm not saying it's inconceivable, but it would be an extremely hard task, because you're basically dealing with very basic laws of motion, which, at the slow speeds and low masses that prevail with automobiles are pretty closely approximated by Newton's 3 laws of motion. So those pretty much tell you it's a very tough job to make a minivan work like a sports car. There are trade-offs. In the same way, in the living world, it's very hard to get elephants to reproduce as quickly as mice. Because think of how long it takes to build a baby elephant. It's just going to take more time than it's going to take to build a cute little baby mouse, because the elephant is one hell of a lot bigger. So inherently in biology, we know that there are trade-offs, and all biologists accept this concept. The point that is really relevant for aging is the concept of trade-offs between survival and reproduction at an early age versus survival and reproduction at a later age. Because the forces of natural selection decline, you have this total bias in favor of the early reproduction versus the later reproduction, or indeed the later survival.
And so again, the question is, how does that affect you and me and our listener?
So I often get into arguments with people where, like I'm talking about what I'm doing, my experiments and the ideas I'm interested in, and they say, it's like, oh, well, you should spend more time pursuing this other topic that I'm really interested in. And I say, yeah, but I have this main thing I'm working on right now. And they say, well, go ahead and do both. And I say, well, there are only so many hours in a day. You can only do so much in a day. And they say, oh, I don't accept that. And I go, well, that's because you're not accepting the reality of trade-offs, the reality of choices. And choices are always there. So, fundamentally, if you think about what you're doing biologically, you are every day faced with trade-offs between how much time you're going to spend working during the day versus how much time you're going to be spending sleeping. And those two things are going to trade off with each other. So every day that you live, you are actually, consciously or unconsciously, dealing with trade-offs in the very specific decisions you make about how best to orchestrate your functionality.